I know Mr. Phillips wants to get in on this.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to continue on the theme of incentives, to which you both refer. The incentives here are perverse, I think it's fair to say. And I'd like to go further upstream. We all know that members who come from very safe districts not only are not rewarded for working together, they're punished. They're labeled as traitors by their base, whether it's a deep blue district or deep red district. So my question for each of you is, are there some changes to our electoral system that might reward candidates on both sides of the aisle who would come here with the ethos of working together? Is ranked choice voting or independent redistricting commissions or changes to our primary system? Any thoughts on how to create a reward system before people come here to incentivize collaboration?
So reforms to the electoral process are certainly beyond my expertise, but I would say that it is important to think about the sort of biggest incentive structure possible when you are asking yourselves kind of, why do the incentives that you face shape your behavior in the ways that you do? So the question is absolutely the right one. I can't speculate. I don't know if you all would like to on sort of exactly which reforms to the electoral system might change your incentives and thus your behavior in specific ways. But I do think it's the right question to ask.
Mr. Levin?
Well, I would only say that I think it's important to experiment with changes on that front because that is the most powerful incentive that a lot of members face. And I say experiment because it's easy to get things wrong in unexpected ways. I think the incentives that members confront now have to do a lot of the time with a set of election reforms that were advanced in the 1970s that created the primary system we know now that were intended to solve real problems and that it ended up creating, I think in some ways, bigger problems. That was not the intention of their designers. They were not meant to make our system more partisan, but they absolutely have made our system more partisan. So I do believe that there's great value in experimenting, particularly with ranked choice voting for the House. But I think it's enormously important that that be experimentation. And the reason I think it's valuable is because this institution is meant to be representative of the breadth of our society. And that means it has to represent more finely some of the distinctions and differences that exist. I would put this way. I think one of the strange things about the contemporary Congress is that there aren't a lot of intra-party factions. Polarization, on the one hand, means the parties get more and more different from each other. It also means the parties get more and more similar internally. And there are fewer internal differences among Republicans and Democrats that might allow for some room for some Republicans to work with some Democrats. The electoral system can help to change that. And there is some experimentation happening in Alaska next year, and it's being considered in a variety of places, as you know. I think that's very constructive, and that it's important when we face an element of our system that we think is failing us, that we ask ourselves, how can we change it? And that we try to do that and see what happens. And so I'm encouraged by those experiments, but we shouldn't assume we know how they'll go, because these kinds of things have a way of surprising us.
Thank you.
I think Mr. Perlmutter wants to get on this.